name is Mark Hobart, and I am a catastrophist. Together with my colleague Cola here, we are going to present video number 8. Hey, look, a squirrel. And there's a summary. Mutare fatum, to change fate. And these are the references, some of which are displayed here, the rest of which I will present as I go through the scurry of squirrels to our thinking. And there's quite a few of them. You know, we are our own worst enemies when it comes to thinking. Catastrophic thinking is a technique to be used for formulating all types of policies. All sides to any policy formation debates must be able to think clearly. I mean, competing sides must be able to think clearly. Most of the Essential Concepts video series is aimed to help us think more clearly and avoid these distractions. The best illustration of distractions that I came up with was the Disney 2009 animated film Up, featuring Doug, the talking dog, voiced by Robert Peterson. Doug could express his thoughts through a special dog collar created by his master. Unfortunately, it could not improve his mind. He was still distracted by his predatory instincts. Another example I found was in high school debate. Affirmative plans do not always fairly meet the proposed resolution. For example, in high school, the first year I was debating, the resolution was resolved that the jury system of the United States should be significantly changed. As a novice, I encountered the affirmative plan to significantly change coroners' juries. In thinking you are overrun with squirrels in your own mind, it's similar to that. Coroner's juries was a squirrel plan. It didn't meet the idea that they wanted us to debate, which was that all the juries should be significantly changed. Number of jurors, various types of modifications to the jury system. So they tried to focus, the opposing team from another high school tried to focus on a tiny area, and we had no idea how to challenge it. And we came up with corruption and mafia and things like that, but we didn't know. It's only later in the course that we learned how to deal with squirrel plans. The Essential Concepts video series is going to help you kill the squirrels in your own mind. What distractions do we have? Well, they're listed here down in number E, 2E, think clearly. And a few of them are listed on that poster, and we're going to go through a whole scurry of distractions. Each squirrel will be examined in greater detail when I get around to the course. This list is by no means complete. Number 1, The Fog of War. I have a couple books here. The Fog of War and Rumsfeld's Rules, 2 books that grew out of the Vietnam era. Information is never complete. More comes to light as time passes. Much of what we know is wrong. It's called the Fog of War. Well, it could also be the Fog of Catastrophe. Do you remember the pandemic? The CDC and the WHO issued copious amounts of misinformation. I knew we were being lied to about sunshine doesn't work, fresh air doesn't work, masks do work. That was the Fog of War. So you've all experienced the first one, which is misinformation. The second one is loss in translation. And examples are, this is one of the references, scripture twisting. Scripture twisting is about intentionally misunderstanding and not using the correct context when looking at scripture. But there's lots of ways that things can be mistranslated. For example, the English version, thou shalt not kill, in the Hebraic version, back when it was written, back when it was determined to be added to the Bible in the Old Testament, it was thou shalt not murder. We make up translations mistranslations, and they become gospel. In the Garden of Eden, was it a red, delicious apple? We all think so. That's what we're taught. Compare Genesis 3:3-7, which doesn't say it's a red apple, with Revelation 22:2, which describes the same tree. Number 3, numbers don't lie. So common. So common. Let's see, what do I have here that a mathematician reads the newspaper as my reference. Talks about how things can be misinterpreted. And I have some quotes there. Statistics are like bikinis. What they reveal is interesting, but what they don't reveal tells so much more. And this is an old classic from 1954, How to Lie with Statistics by Huff. That's a must read, and it's an easy read. All statistics are wrong and misleading if you know where to look. Number 5, faulty data. One of the statistical flaws arises from data pitfalls. There's 40 ways at least that data is misleading, and I'll be covering them in my course. All data is flawed one way or another because all data is based on observations and measurements. Facts. Let me say this about facts. All of what you know or read about in the papers probably aren't facts. They could be theories, opinions, predictions, promises, projections, extrapolations, estimations, conjectures, and speculations. I call them topics. They're all not factual, and yet they make up a large part of our discourse when we're discussing policies. Number 7, life is not a certainty, and I have here 3 books by Taleb, The Black Swan, Fooled by Randomness, and Large Tales. All are good books. Let me give you an example of why we try to quantify what is not quantifiable. The airplane flight arrives at 7:05 p.m. That's just a guess. The actual schedule is between never, if it's in a crash, or next day if it's forced to do a layover. Almost all numbers are probabilities until they are in the past. Life is more like probabilities, is probabilities with consequences. Call it risk. Number 8, bad science. Bad science is that poster over there, Spotting Bad Science. I'd recommend going to get that thing. Read it, study it, and on my website I list 12 types of science, ranging all the way from science fiction to political science, but only one true type of science, and that's using the methodology of science. And follow the science. We've read a lot and heard a lot about it in the news media, where they tried to justify policies that were not based on sound science. Number 9, experts. Book I've selected is Tyranny of the Experts. There'll be many more. Never forget that experts are experts of the past. Anything they say about the future is a prediction, an extrapolation, an estimation, a topic. It is not facts. Never forget that experts have all the human failings, like pride, conceit, and most alarmingly, experts change their minds. Experts terrify me because during the 2020 pandemic, they admitted later on to lying to us, waving off scientific methods, making arbitrary decisions like closing schools but not casinos, and nearly destroying the American economy. Get the book down here called Tragic Choices: The Conflict Society Confronts in the Allocation of Tragically Scarce Resources. And ask yourself as you read this, should an expert be making these policy determinations? Tragic choices. There were a lot of them during the pandemic. Number 10, cognitive biases. There's a article on it. There's a codex down there, and there's a couple books about how to master, contain, or control the 180 so cognitive biases that are out there. To cope with this world, what is a cognitive bias? We develop mental shortcuts called heuristics and other rules of thumb to deal with a world that's just too confusing. Cognitive biases. We'll talk about that some. 11, fallacies. This book, Mastering Logical Fallacies. We're going to cover all these fallacies somewhere along the way. So many types of fallacies that we need to recognize and be able to dismiss. And number 12, deceptions. I got this book, Duped. I have a mnemonic device called Dupe, D-U-P-C-E-D. The C is silent. Each of them stand for a simple problem in deceptions. Lots of deceptions. Here's another book on deceptions, Weaponized Lies, how to deal with discourse and dialogue and rhetoric when it's all falsified or twisted, obfuscated, slanted, spinned, or suppressed. That's called tossing the truth. And the media and the politicians share rigs, rumors, innuendo, insinuations, gossip, and slander. All of these things have to be overcome. We'll look at that in this course. Conclusion. We need to be aware how undisciplined and disorganized our thinking is. And that's the first step, to recognize what is a squirrel in our thinking. And this series of videos is aimed not at what you think, but how you think. So I will have some slides here with all the references that I've shown, plus a lot more. Here's another one. So many of these, it was hard to figure out what to put them under. Like this one, bad argumentation. That's a combination of fallacies and bad science and cognitive biases. Here's another book too, the ostrich paradox, where it lists all these cognitive biases that we suffer from. So we encourage you to like, subscribe. I need more subscribers to become essential. There's a copyright trademark, and I'll end every video with a prayer for peace.